Is the NVIDIA GTX 960 still a hidden gem in 2024? Hello gamers and welcome back to the channel. Today we find out just how much 9 years does to a graphic card. Does it age like fine wine or like a forgotten sandwich in a broken down fridge? The GTX 960 was released in 2015 for around $199 MSRP and was the go-to card for a lot of budget PC builders, offering great performance at affordable pricing. Fast forward 9 years and this card only cost around $50. Does this beast of a card still manage to put out great performance, or does it suck now? Let us find out, shall we? Before we begin, let us take a look at the specs of the GTX 960. Under the hood, the GTX 960 packs a 2GB of VRAM DDR5, a 1024 CUDA cores, and a base clock of 1127 MHz. Solid specs for its time, but in 2024, that might still feel like bringing a knife to a gunfight, especially with how much VRAM-hungry games have become. Forza Horizon 5 on 1080p with low settings delivered an impressive 80 to 60 FPS, and honestly, the game still looked absolutely stunning. Despite the low preset, the graphical details were nothing short of breathtaking. The game is so beautiful, I almost forgot I was stress testing a 9-year-old GPU. Testing it was an absolute joy for me. If you are enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more GPU performance tests. Next up was GTA 5 on 1080p with normal settings. This yielded a 30 to 40 frame, which I would admit was a bit underwhelming after the smooth ride with the Forza Horizon 5. I had my hopes up for a bit more, but hey, 30 to 40 FPS is still pretty for a solid single player experience. Plus, the level of detail was surprisingly good for a card this old. And as a personal favorite of mine, seeing GTA 5 run decently on the GTX 960 was a nostalgic treat. Not perfect, but definitely cool to see. To get Need for Speed Unbound running decently, we had to dial the resolution down to 720p, which gave us around 30 to 40 frames, with occasional dips to 28. It was a necessary sacrifice to keep the game playable and stand a chance in those high-speed chases. Surprisingly, even at 720p, the visuals held up pretty well, and the adrenaline-fueled action didn't disappoint. Not ideal, but hey, at least I wasn't sliding all over the track. Well, it's not because of the frames anyway, I just suck at racing games. Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p on low settings with FSR balance gave us a wide range between 20 to 40 FPS. Honestly, I was bracing for frame spikes, but to my surprise, the performance was steady and the details looked solid as usual. For kicks, I also dropped the resolution down to 720p, which bumped the frame rate to a smoother 40 to 60 FPS. Though the visuals weren't quite as sharp, seeing it run decently on the GTX 960 felt like a small miracle. Borderland 3 on 1080p with low settings delivered a surprisingly smooth 45 to 50 FPS, and the experience was buttery throughout. Honestly, low settings didn't even look half bad. The vibrant comic book style visuals still popped, and the fast-paced action felt fluid enough to keep me immersed. For a game this demanding, running on a 9-year-old GPU, it was actually quite impressive. Not top-tier performance, but definitely good enough to have some fun with. Devil May Cry 5 was tested with 1080p on high settings, running like a dream with the GTX 960, delivering a solid 58 to 60 FPS. The performance was impressively smooth with no noticeable stutters or frame drops. It's clear this old GPU still packs a punch, handling high intensive action with ease. I was thrilled with how well it managed to keep up, proving it still got some serious gaming chops. Testing Overwatch 1.2, Overwatch 2 at 1080p on high settings was a breeze. The GTX 960 delivered a solid 670 to 80 FPS, usually hovering comfortably around 70 FPS. The details were sharp and the game was silky smooth. Not surprising for such a well-optimized esports title after all. It even runs on a GT 710. So while there is not much to complain about here, it's clear that the GTX 960 handles Overwatch 2 like a champ. Sifu at ultra settings was an absolute delight. The GTX 960 delivered frames soaring above 100, proving a fantastical smooth experience. The details were exceptionally good, with sharp textures and vibrant environmental enhancing every fight scene. The high frames rate made the gameplay incredibly fluid, showing that even an older GPU can handle stunning visuals and fast-paced action with ease. If you are into smooth, high-octane action, Sifu on the GTX 960 is a top-notch experience. Apex Legends at 1080p on low settings yielded a steady 50 to 60 frames with the occasional dips to 45. Despite the low settings, the game still looked sharp and presented a decent overall visual experience. In fact, I even managed to snag 2 kills. Not too bad. You will never get to witness it though. Guess you just have to take my word for it. Yes, you guys need to take my word for it, because I definitely got those kills. You can tell because those 2 kills marks up there. Far Cry 6 was put through its paces using the in-game benchmark 2, and at 1080p on low settings we got a respectable 40 to 60 frames with the occasional frame spike. I chose the benchmark instead of regular gameplay since it throws a variety of intense scenario at the GPU, really pushing it to the edge. Despite the low settings, the level of detail was still solid, with the vibrant world of Yara looking pretty sharp. It was like intensive workout for the GTX 960, and though the spikes hit, it handled the chaos like a champ. Hellblade Sen Sacrifice was tested at 1080p on low settings, and it delivered a solid 40 to 48 frames. The game was on edge of hitting 50 frames with performance just shy of that magic number. The details held up very well, and the unique combat system still made for an immersive experience. Even on this aging GPU, the game's intensive atmosphere and striking visuals shone through, proving it's a fantastic play on the GTX 960. Spiderman Miles Morales was a bit of a letdown for the GTX 960. I was hoping for a bit more performance, but with 30 to 33 FPS, it's clear this game really pushes the limits of this aging GPU. While the low resolution and occasional frame drops might be a trade-off, the details still look good, and the gameplay, despite the hiccups, managed to stay somewhat smooth. It's a decent experience for a single player game, but don't expect a flawless web-slinging adventure. Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered at 1080p on very high settings looked stunning. The GTX 960 managed a solid 40 to 60 FPS, providing a smooth and immersive experience. The detailed environment and sharp visuals made the historical settings come to life, and the gameplay was impressively fluid. It's clear that even an older GPU can deliver a great looking and enjoyable adventure, proving that Assassin's Creed 3 still has a lot to offer on the GTX 960, regardless of it being remastered. Assassin's Creed Rogue at 1080p on very high settings was a real treat. The GTX 960 delivered a rock-solid 60 FPS, making for a smooth and immersive adventure. The visuals were sharp and the gameplay was fluid and engaging. If you are craving a high-quality Assassin's Creed experience without breaking the bank, this setup proves you don't need the latest hardware to enjoy a fantastic game. If you like this review, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more gaming insights. In conclusion, the GTX 960 still delivers impressive performance for its age, handling a diverse range of games with solid results. From the smooth, high frame rates in Sifu and Assassin's Creed Rogue to playable experience in Devil May Cry 5 and Far Cry 6, it shows that older hardware can still pack a punch with some help from FSR, TSR, and some frame gen technologies. However, if you are finding that newer titles or higher settings are pushing the limits, there are definitely options for upgrading to more recent GPUs that offer even better performance and features. Whether you stick with the GTX 960 or choose to upgrade, there is a gaming solution out there for you. If you enjoyed this review and want more insight, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for the latest updates and gaming advices from Die Gamer Art. I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.